Do practice pads really respond like a real snare drum? Most critics would say no, and some would even argue that you should practice exclusively on a real snare drum, if possible, and avoid practice pads altogether. But there's got to be a practice pad that at least comes close, right? Today we're testing 6 practice pads that I happen to have here in my collection at the studio that I've collected over the years, and we're going to see which of those feels most like a snare drum. We'll tune the snare low, medium, and high, and watch how the stick bounces and responds at those tunings versus on each practice pad. This is definitely going to be a thorough comparison that I hope will give you some guidance as far as what practice pad you might want to buy. So let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer, the channel all about giving you the core drumming skills that really help you to make music better and faster. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Also download my free guide below in the description. Learn how to play one-handed hi-hat 16ths, open hat barks and cuts, and left foot independence, all in 9 easy to follow lessons. All right, on with today's video. We've got an old Vic Firth 2-sided pad. This one I've had for a very long time. An Evans RealFeel 2-sided pad. A Movement Drumco 2-sided pad, which actually has a workout surface also. An Aquarian Superpad that can be a standalone practice pad or you can put it onto a drum. An RTOM Black Hole mesh head that you can put onto any drum also, so it's a great drum set practice system, or you could actually technically use it as a standalone practice pad too. And lastly, the Remo Silentstroke. These are some that I've used on toms before. I'll tell you more about these and about why I have duct tape on them. And we'll be looking at this one here that I have on this snare drum. So let's go ahead and dive straight into the comparison footage. We'll be comparing how the stick bounces, how it rebounds on each of these surfaces compared to the real snare at 3 different tunings, kind of low-ish, but not super low, medium, and then pretty high. And so we'll see which of these bounces the most realistically, because we want a pad that actually feels like an actual snare, that isn't too bouncy and isn't too dead. And so we'll see which looks the best. Enjoy. So the Vic Firth pad, this might not really be a fair comparison because it's so old, but I kind of like the way it feels now because it's so dry rotted here. It makes it a little deader and less springy. And so in a way that potentially feels more realistic than the Evans RealFeel. A lot of times people joke about how the RealFeel doesn't exactly feel real because it's just too bouncy, even on this backside. And any hard practice pad can only feel so real because they're trying to emulate something that isn't at all a hard surface. And so there's only so good that these companies can do. But the strength of the RealFeel is it's great for a beginner drummer. It's a pad that I'll still recommend for a beginner drummer when we're talking about learning buzzes and learning doubles and just getting technique together, because it's great to have some extra bounce in that scenario. It might not be a great pad for an advanced player to practice on, or definitely to get a workout on, but it's great for a beginner. It's a good pad. Really the same goes for that Vic Firth pad. I think if the Vic Firth pad were new, it would feel a lot like the Evans RealFeel. Those two are very similar. Overall though, they're very springy, so we could say they aren't really exactly like a snare at all, just too springy, unless we had the snare tuned extremely high probably. The Movement Drumco pad is pretty cool. They sent me this one a while back, and I've actually got another one of these also that has a different kind of surface, but this is just their basic 2-sided pad. And this one is just a rubber surface that feels a lot like the Evans RealFeel. It's very bouncy, very springy. Again, a great beginner pad. But what I like the most about this pad is the workout surface that feels kind of like a low-tuned snare, honestly. So it's just this soft foam, so it doesn't, the impact, the attack doesn't feel like an actual snare head because you're hitting foam instead of plastic, but overall the bounce reaction and the duration of our free bounce is about the same as a low tune snare, and this is a great surface for working out on. So that kind of scores this pad some points for realism, but mainly just for working out, getting a great workout. That's what I use it for. But now we get into some of the more interesting pads, the ones that are either replacing a drum head or you're placing it over a drum and it's sold as an entire drum set practice system. The Aquarian Superpad is a really cool example of this because it's sort of the crossover. You can put it on your drums, have one on each drum including the kick, or it can be a standalone pad because it is a firm pad that you can set on any surface. I feel like it's kind of a best of both worlds because of that, and I like how it's not hard. It's not a hard surface that's super springy. And because of that, it's much more forgiving for your hands, and it doesn't wear your hand out. You don't feel that shock going up your arm because it's so hard. It's absorbing a lot, and so that results in less bounce, less springiness, because it's slightly soft. When you press on it, you can literally press into it. So it's this really unique material, and I think the Aquarian Superpad is the best feeling hard practice pad, as we could call it, compared to a Remo Silentstroke or the RTOM Black Hole, which are mesh. I think this is the best feeling hard practice pad, and it's the most versatile. And so this is a really cool option that definitely scores a lot of points, bounces very accurately, feels very good to play. It's really fun to play, even on toms. I like them on toms. No, it doesn't feel just like a low tune tom, but the bigger it is, the less rebound you get. And so it's actually pretty cool, and they're pretty quick to throw on the drums. Very convenient that way. So the RTOM Black Hole is really, I think it is the best, most accurate feeling, probably even most versatile out of all of these, but not the most cost effective. The Remo Silentstrokes are going to beat this out for cost because these are expensive, but if you can afford to get one for every one of your drums, that's really cool because you can just place them on there. You don't have to switch the heads out. I decided a while back just to buy one for my snare so I could play rim shots, and then I would use whatever else on my other toms back when I lived in an apartment. But this scores major points because you can adjust the tension. It actually comes with a little key you can use here that adjusts the size of this metal ring inside that'll stretch the mesh. And because of this patch in the middle, it actually feels very much like an actual drum. It doesn't sound like an actual drum, but it bounces very much like it, and so I think this is the ultimate in realism. But it's not a great standalone pad. You could use it standalone. You could try to fit this in a backpack, but it's really intended more as part of a practice system you would implement on your kit. Really, the Remo Silentstrokes, they win for cost effectiveness, but they're less convenient, but they do feel very real. And what I learned a while back when I was drumming in my apartment was that if you put some gaff tape or duct tape in the middle, you can actually reduce the springiness. Because the thing about these, if you've got one on your snare like this, it's just way too springy, even tuned loose. I've got this tuned as loose as it'll go before the lugs are starting to come out. So basically it's finger tight, and it's still just not, it doesn't feel like a snare at all. But you can make it feel a lot more like a snare when you do like what the RTOM has and put a little patch in the middle. I bet you could use a patch like you would have on a kick drum, you know, the reinforcement patch to put on the batter head. You could probably use that. Or you could use some gaff tape or duct tape. That's what I did. And that made the toms feel really good. I usually didn't use this on my snare. I would use like a Superpad or the RTOM. But if I did put it on my snare, I would definitely load it up with some gaff tape and try to reduce that springiness. And so the Silentstrokes are very versatile that way. You can add to them and make them feel better. And they're also very cost effective, same price as normal drum heads. If you want to see more detail on that, I compared these practice systems in a lot of detail in a video years ago, like 2.5, almost 3 years ago, when I was living in an apartment and I was first experimenting and I first bought these. And so check that out. I'll put a link in the description if you want to know more, just comparing in detail Silentstrokes versus RTOM versus Superpads. So which of these is actually the best? I know we've talked about the strengths and the weaknesses. Which is the best though? Honestly, it all depends on what you want to use these for. If you're looking for a great standalone pad that just has a good balance of natural bounce and just good feel, I think the Superpad is actually a really good way to go, and then you can place it on your snare if you get the 14-inch one. Of course, you can get it in a whole bunch of different sizes. You could even get like a 12-inch Aquarian Superpad, and that could be your standalone pad to stuff in your backpack. I think they make them even smaller than that. You could probably get a 10-inch. And so that's a really good option. As far as full drum set practice, honestly, the RTOM is the very best, but it's also the most expensive. These are not cheap, and so it's kind of hard for me to recommend it as a viable all drum set practice solution. But if you can get one for your snare, it does feel really good, and you can play very accurate rim shots with it because of the rim, and those rim shots are still quiet too. Again, you can see more of that in that previous video I did a while back. And so really the RTOM Black Hole and the Remo Silentstroke win for just overall versatility and realism on a kit, because you can tune them, you can change the tension, you can put tape on them and make them feel very realistic. So for overall kit practice, those are the best, but I think the Superpad has to win for me as a standalone pad that I could also put on my snare if I wanted to. And then if I had to give a number 2, it'd probably be the Movement Drumco pad because of the workout surface. I like the fact that I can use the soft side as a workout. It's just a convenient, really soft foam that I don't have on any other practice pad, and so a lot of times I'll solely use this pad as a workout pad, and it's great for that. So again, it depends on what's your purpose here, what are you wanting to use it for. If you're a beginner starting out and you want a lot of bounce, and then you want to flip it over and work on building up doubles strength, the Movement Drumco 2-sided pad is a great way to go. So it all depends on exactly what you're doing and what your goals are and what you want to use the pad for. And so if anything, I hope this video has helped show you that and has shown you the strengths, the weaknesses, the pros and cons of each of these pads and practice systems, so you can make a more educated choice. And of course, there are a ton more out there. These are just the 6 main ones that I happen to have here in my studio at my disposal that I've collected over the years. But there's a whole bunch of other pads out there on the internet that of course you can go research. But this is just my input on some of my favorites and pads that I've logged a lot of hours practicing on. So you've watched the comparison footage. You can agree or disagree with me. So leave a comment below. Tell me which pad you think the stick bounced most accurately on. Which pad responded the most like a snare drum? Because that was our ultimate question. So I gave you what I thought, which is kind of subjective, which one I thought felt the best as the player. But for you, the viewer watching this, which one looked the most real? Leave a comment below and let me know. Hey, as always, thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and also go download my free guide on playing hi-hats, your checklist for mastering the hi-hats, 9 strategies for overcoming hi-hat frustration, like not being able to play open notes cleanly, not being able to do 16ths cleanly or left foot coordination. That book will give you a great overview, just going through all of the details of and different aspects of playing hi-hat. It'll really help clean your hi-hat playing up in 3 categories, 9 specific tips and strategies. So that's sure to help you out. Yours free, go download it. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I will see you next week on the next video. Thanks.